In this conversation, we're going to hear from Rae Pika, truly one of the world's leading experts on the early childhood development and the natural stages for children and everything else. And one of the things I want you to pay particular attention to is the fact that she is calling for us to spark a revolution in early childhood education. And she talks a little bit about what that would mean for her. And I think this is really great because this is exactly why we wanted to do this summit at this time, is that we are in a time of change and upheaval. And this is a time for us to step up and maybe get something a little better than we had before. And I'm not talking about marginal change. I'm hoping a real revolution where we can really start doing what's right for children. And as Rae talks about play-based education. One of the things one of the things she talks about is that this maybe isn't a natural thing for us in early childhood. Many of us, we didn't get into this to spark a revolution. We got into it to be with young children and to support young children and families through this challenging phase of their lives. But she talks a little bit about how we can overcome that, some of the challenges that she's had with it, and hopefully gives you a chance to think about what role could you play in taking action, putting the act back in activism. Rae also talks about parents, and she talks about parenting as a competitive sport. And this has really given me a chance to really think a lot about how parenting has changed, has also put the influence on how education has changed, especially for young children. And then finally, Rae talks to us about it's not just our job to educate children, but also to educate parents, entire families. And as someone who comes out of a cooperative background, let me tell you, this is something that's near and dear to my heart. So I think you're going to enjoy this, and let's start a revolution.
Hey, welcome back. And I am so thrilled to have one of my heroes with us today. Welcome, Rae. I'm so excited you're here.
Thank you, Sally. Thanks for inviting me.
Oh, I want to share for people who may not know you, but I think most of us know you because you have been such a voice in our community with BAM Radio when you were doing that. And you have written so many amazing books and author of 21 books, right? It's a lot of books. That's amazing. Including my favorite, What If Everyone Understood Child Development? Now, wouldn't that change our industry?
It's one of those DA questions, right?
Yes, exactly. Straight talk about bettering education in children's lives. And what if we taught the way children learn? You also have online courses and, have given live wonderful presentations. You're just incredible. So thank you so much for really putting your stake in the ground for developmentally appropriate practice for educators and play-based education.
Oh, well, thank you for that lovely introduction.
Yeah. You have just been an incredible force. I would love to know a little bit about what brought you into this work and to actually advocate on stage and in books and giving us inspiration.
Well, I didn't come by any normal route at all. I mean, that could take a whole hour to tell you. But I mean, I started backing up. I started teaching dance to 4-year-olds and realized very quickly that they didn't need dance as much as some basic body and spatial awareness and opportunities for creative expression. So I started studying movement education, and then it just moved beyond movement for the physical and the creativity to how movement is the tool by which young children learn, through which they understand concepts. So that sort of the active learning piece sort of became a big part of what I was doing. I never thought about speaking in front of groups. The very first time was, like 112 years ago. And I was living in New Hampshire at the time, and the Stratford County Head Start called or wrote or whatever and said, I don't even know if we had email back then. I don't think we didn't. And they said, we hear you do this movement stuff. Would you like to do a teacher training for us? And I said, oh, sure, I'll try that, which is every step of the way. Oh, sure, yes. I'll try that. Would you like to write a textbook? Oh, sure, I'll try that. I mean, the first presentation was maybe not a disaster, but not very good. We sat around round tables and talked about movement, and the the evaluations came back. Maybe next time we could do some movement. And like, oh, hello. Gee, what a good idea. Why didn't I think of that? So it's just evolved from there. Yeah, it's not being in front of people is not my natural habitat. But
I love you saying that too, because I know I've had colleagues who have had the desire to present their work, but feel like they can't, they don't know how. And we all start not knowing how. Like you don't just step out to do, I know I really suffered in the beginning as well.
Yeah, so. You learn as you go. If the message is that important to you, and it is to me, you do it. But I don't think I did it well for a number of years. I feel like a very late bloomer, and of course, now that I've come into my own, there are no live speaking engagements amidst a pandemic.
Exactly. It is really a different time. And I want to dive into, you wrote an article about, is it time for, I forgot what it was called, but something about, is it Sparks for a Revolution?
Sparks for Revolution. Right? I don't remember the title either, Sally.
What will it take for us to have a revolution? What would it look like for you for us to have a revolution? What would constitute a revolution?
Well, I can tell you what would constitute a revolution, but ever since I wrote that darn blog post, people have been turning to me to lead the charge. And I feel like, oh boy, I really got myself into it now. I can talk a good game.
Right. Well, yeah, logistics are something that we were all looking, right? Like how can we?
The action steps are really challenging. And I do want to create an online course about advocacy because I've studied a lot. But advocacy looks different for everybody because most early childhood professionals don't feel, like they want to be policy wonks or warriors, to lead the charge themselves. But there are a lot of smaller steps you can take. But, what a revolution would look like to me, it would look like the people who make the decisions about early childhood education would include people who understand early child. I mean, talk about
right?
They're not being asked to the table. When the Common Core kindergarten standards were created, not one early childhood professional, not one child development expert was invited to be part of that. And I feel like they're just plucking ideas out of the sky and saying, oh, they should do this and they should read by the end of kindergarten. And it's just all nonsense. So early childhood experts, teachers, professionals, people who are with children all day long, people who understand child development would be in charge of these decisions, would have a great amount of input. The revolution would mean that children are not sitting to learn. It would mean that we stop having unrealistic expectations for them, that we honor childhood for what it is. It's such a glorious, special time of life, and it's so short, and we're rushing them through it for, I don't know what reason. Parenting has become a competitive sport.
It has.
Education.
It's very.
Yeah. I mean, the earlier is better myth, which I address in What If Everybody Understood Child Development, is just huge. And I know it's not just in the US, it's in other places too, but it's taken control of society. We have to, whether we're talking about academics or athletics, we're rushing them into everything before they're developmentally ready. There's no respect for what the child is at the moment.
So true. It's so true. I think about being a young mother, and people, this is like back in the 80s, right? People, so, it's been here a long time. We've been in this fix of people going, is she crawling yet? Are they potty trained? How many words? At 9 months, my child is speaking full sentences. It's like this. It's like my child is 3 and babbles still. It's like,
Right. I
Like,
think perhaps it's always been that way, Sally. That's a good
yeah,
point. But it's gotten out of control now.
it
I had
has.
a mom who was an early childhood professional and did understand child development say to me, after one of my keynotes or something, I don't know what to do with all the pressure I'm getting to enroll my child in the local competitive soccer program. And I said, how old is your child? Well, her daughter was 2.5. you know, 2.5. And then I had a mom email me not too long ago and say, my son's childcare center keeps sending home notes, how dismayed they are because he can't sit still and he can't yet grasp a pencil properly. How old was her son? 3. She said, should a 3-year-old be able to do these things? I said, no,
No.
no. And
This
and
is,
why are they expecting these things? I mean, the stories I hear make me weep. My hair can't turn much whiter. It may start falling out at some point. It's just, yeah, it's so enormously frustrating that we have these unrealistic expectations for them, and I don't know why. It's not going to make them more successful.
no.
It's making them more stressed out, more burnt out, more anxious and depressed.
And
Dr. Peter
so,
Gray is going to be one of your guests, right?
yeah.
He'll talk about that. The correlation between the lack of play and the lack of childhood and depression and anxiety among young children. It's so sad.
It is so sad. And, I do think personally that the biggest revolution will happen when we have parents on our bandwagon and they're seeing it, right?
That's
Because
what I keep saying.
yeah, because I feel like we're in a consumer driven educational model.
Yes.
So it's kind of driven by what parents are demanding, the school board, it starts there, the pressure
Yes.
of parents. And in groups, as an educator, that's what the pressure I felt. And I wonder, do you have any idea ways that we can educate parents?
Oh, that's the $1,000,000 question,
Question,
Sally.
right? Yeah.
I keep asking the people who attend my presentations and the people who read my blogs to educate the parents as well. I know the early childhood professionals have so much to do already,
I
but
know.
I just think it's incumbent upon us to educate the parents as well. I've created one-page letters, dear parent,
Yeah.
on why play matters, earlier is not better, the importance of, why sitting does not equal learning. I don't know, I've got 7 topics or something
That's fantastic.
to distribute to parents, and people can copy them and distribute them from now until the end of time once they've purchased them.
Purchase them.
So
Perfect. They could be a back to school night with the families, giving a
that'd be
talk
good.
with those handouts. I think that would be because I think just for me in my practice, just sitting down with a handout like that and going through it with them and talking. So I'll make
Yeah.
sure below here we have the link to those.
Yes.
Yes.
The other thing about that is, as a mom, you can say a lot of things that go in one ear and out the other for your children. And I think that as early childhood professionals, when we're talking to parents, it's often the same way. So I created these so that they would have an outside voice, an expert voice, saying the same things that they're saying that maybe they be taken more seriously.
That's brilliant. No, I honestly think these kinds of resources, and I know you guys listening, when I was in the classroom and you have all these things you're trying to manage and get ready and set up and clean up and scheduling, all the things, right? To have these done for you things, resources that help advocate for what we do in the classroom are gold. It's
Yeah.
gold. We need that. We need that desperately. Because again, when you're all stressed out, trying to get ready for school to start, you have back to school night, you're going to sit down, and how clear are you and relaxed to write that powerful handout when you can just go to Rae, who's already written it. It's like, yes.
No sense reinventing the wheel.
No.
My other hope is that during this pandemic, that
Mhm.
parents will see for themselves the power of play. They will see how much their children are learning when they have the time, the downtime and the free time to just engage. That is, assuming they're being given free time. I mean, I think it was the co-anchors of today's Third Hour. Someone said, they were talking about being their children's teacher, and one of them felt guilty because because she wasn't able to sit with her child the whole time he was online for his online school from 9, it was from 9 until 2. 10, 11, 12, 1, 2, 5 hours a day. Her son was 3.
What? How? And how?
It brings tears to my eyes because it's so ludicrous. I know, and it's cruel. And she didn't realize that, and she is not alone.
No.
They don't get it. They just don't get it. And that's not authentic learning for a 3-year-old. So it's going to go, I think, following the pandemic, one way or the other. We're either going to have people who realize that children learn naturally, joyfully, on their own through play and exploration and discovery, or it's going to be all worksheets and screens, and that scares me to death. So
that's it.
Yeah.
That's because it's the easy way, right? To say, here's a worksheet, you're 6 feet apart, don't get up.
Yeah.
Stay still.
Yeah. Oh, stay still.
Right? It's terrifying.
It is. And it is the easy way. Dr. David Elkind once said to me when I was doing the BAM podcast, he said, wrong answers have a way of catching on more quickly than right answers. And I wondered, I think he's right about that. And I wondered why. And I think it's because wrong answers tend to be the easy way.
Right? Yeah. Which, if you think about an early childhood classroom that does theme boxes and worksheets and the cutout craft things that all, that kind of prepackaged cookie cutter curriculum, you don't have to, you do a lot of collecting, but you don't do a lot of thinking.
Right.
Neither do the children.
Neither do the children.
Yeah. Neither
do the children. And I wrote a follow-up. I mean, every other week I do a new blog. Rae's rants they're just Rae's rants. That's what they are.
Yes.
And it occurred to me, we have a pandemic and people are scrambling to find a solution to this. And now we have racial unrest here in the States as well we should. And there are just so many problems in the world. There will always be problems in the world as long as there are humans in the world. So why does our system of education focus on one right answer, like with the worksheets and the standardized tests? Why are we not giving them the one skill that will serve them in the future, serve us all in the future? Thinking, solving problems. When I do movement with the children, we use a movement exploration approach. Show me how slowly a turtle moves. Show me a crooked shape. You could ask 300 children that and get 300 different responses. That's divergent problem solving. That's the kind of thinking we need now and in the future. Children who have been taught there's only one right answer to every challenge are not going to be able to create solutions to challenges like a pandemic.
Exactly.
I don't get it. I don't get it. I know back in the day, we were educating children to, be in manufacturing, to just go out to the factories. But hello, that is not our world today. I mean, no. I'm old at this point. I've been around for a lot of decades. the only thing I can think of that hasn't changed is education, over my lifetime.
Exactly. What's that? I remember as a museum educator, I worked primarily with 3 through 6, 7 years old. I was hired by the museum to develop a curriculum for at-risk children in the 4th grade. The teaching artist, so I developed the explorations for them. The teaching artist could not show up one time since I was the one who collaborated. They said, can you come teach it? I'm like, sure, I got that, no problem. Walked into the room of the 4th graders. Guess what blew my mind? Exactly what you're talking about. Am I doing it right? How do I do it? They wanted me to tell them exactly. They didn't get when I said, you're the one who's designing this. You're the designer. I'm not the designer. Yeah. You're thinking about the design, but I don't know what to do. It's like they literally were paralyzed, and it was so shocking from littles not being so, they're not constrained yet.
Until we constrain them.
So what would you suggest to teachers? Because I think there's something really golden that you were hitting upon in your conversation that I want to pull out.
Okay, what was that?
Raise gold. I want her gold for all of the peoples. You were talking about, so we're going back in the classroom, and some people are going to be really faced with some policy and regulation and how that goes. That's going to be a little stifling. Yet, if we're not having them do wrong, there's a possibility. What would be your suggestion of keeping that openness there?
It's so challenging. I feel like it's so easy for me to say the way it should be. Mm-hmm. I work for myself, as do you. We don't have anyone holding the threat of firing over our heads.
That is the truth.
Yeah, I did a series of 3 teacher workshops in a county here in Virginia. And on the 3rd one, a young woman raised her hand and said, "Why are you here?" I thought, okay. No one's ever asked me that before. And she said, "You come and you show us these things we should be doing with the children, but then the county won't let us do them." So one of the other teachers said, "Yeah, I got dinged by an administrator for doing one of the things you showed us last time you were here." But then a 3rd one said, "So you got dinged. What are they going to do? Fire you? They don't have enough good teachers." So, I mean, it's a matter of standing up to the man and risking your job, or, I don't know, doing what they want you to do and risking the children.
It's a hard place.
It's a very hard place. I mean, so many of them, they have to feed themselves. They have to pay their rent, so.
But what I heard, and it's what you indicated, which I loved so much, is the playfulness of it all. Like even in constraint, to keep that exploration, that discovery in ourselves, so the children feel it,
Well, yes. Why is it that we have early childhood professionals who aren't playful and joyful themselves? You'd think anyone choosing that field would have to be playful and joyful. And yet there are those who are not. And I'm not quite sure why they're in the field, but why they chose early childhood.
Right,
yeah. But I think if we can hold on to the joy, and if we can love the children as they are, if we can appreciate and respect early childhood, then we won't expect anything outrageous from them. We won't, have unrealistic expectations for them. But even those who are forced to do the worksheets and the testing and the test preps and all that nonsense, there are ways. I wrote another blog post, something about 5 ways to sneak movement into the curriculum. It's ridiculous to talk about sneaking in movement when it is the young child's preferred mode of learning. So there's another question for you. Why do we teach them in any way that isn't their preferred mode, that isn't the way they learn best? So, to sneak it in, I mean, we use it for, we do brain breaks, because it stimulates the body and the brain. And there is so much research about the connection between the mind and the body. The idea that they're separate is just ridiculous. Transitions are a part of the daily life of a preschool. So they have to move from point A to point B. Why do we ask them to be quiet and be still? When those are two things, the first thing I ask during that webinar or online training, or when I'm doing it live, is what are some of the things, not academically speaking, what are some of the things that a preschooler is not yet developmentally ready to do? Be quiet, stay still, are two of the answers that I get. And what do we demand with transitions? That they be quiet and stay still. So, no wonder they're giving us a hard time. Hello.
Right,
I say that a lot, don't I? Hello. And
not going to work. Right. It's not going to work.
They have to move anyway. So why don't we sneak some of that divergent problem solving, some of that creativity into the transitions? Why, when they're transitioning to snacks or lunch, can't they move as though they're Jell-O wiggling in a bowl, or soup sloshing in a bowl, or in the shape of a carrot stick, or whatever it might be that's food related? And then we're surely hitting on some science standards. We're hitting science concepts and science standards. And so we sneak in the divergent problem solving and the creativity and the self-expression and all the things that children really need. And maybe if they have to be doing worksheets and all those intolerable things, it makes them more tolerable, because they know, they're going to get those opportunities too. And by giving them those opportunities, teachers are showing the children that they do love and respect them.
Oh, I love that. That is gold. That's exactly it.
I'm going to start crying. I cry a lot.
No, it's because when you wake up from, when you take what was in the Matrix, the blue or the red pill, and you see, what play does. Seriously, I was kind of in between for a while, and went into Head Start. And this was like early 2000, and woke up from the dream and really saw the power of play for children at risk. 3-year-olds, who had had a child 13 foster homes. The power of play to help them navigate that.
Yes.
To take that away, yes. I'm with you. I'll cry.
Yeah. Nancy Carlson Page said to me once, if the children don't have play in order to express their feelings, where do those feelings go? Where do those feelings go? Yeah. It's not
aggression,
good.
Anger.
Yeah. And Dr. Stuart Brown, National Institute for Play, I think is his organization. He went into the prisons and interviewed prisoners, and he found that the most violent prisoners had never played as children. That tells us something powerful.
That's huge.
That's
huge.
So if they took all of their feelings of fear, anger, sadness, and they pushed them down because they didn't have the opportunity to play. We have children right now who are playing pandemic. They're, nursing their dolls, and it's a way for them to experience and express what they're feeling, what they're trying to make sense of the world. And if you've got children who don't have the chance to make sense of the world, then they just push those feelings down and down and down. I did a piece on school shootings too. And what does it have to do with early childhood? Well, I just don't think all of that rage just suddenly appears, in a 17-year-old who shoots up a school. It builds. It builds. This is getting very dark.
No, but I think in these challenging times, what you're pointing to is really not just the academic, because the aha for me was play is the academic foundation, ironically, for the neuro connections and the thinking. Like it lays all, in that academic, in the commercial sense of worksheets and theme-based, are the dumbing down. So it's like society views it the exact opposite, right? But more than that, if we just shove that conversation out of the way, what you're pointing to is the power of play to heal the human soul.
Well, whether you talk about God or the universe or Mother Nature, this is what was intended. I mean, would you ask a baby, a kitten, or a puppy, or a baby goat to stay still, don't play? I mean, have you seen the video of the baby goats in pajamas? I mean, really. Young animals were created to play, to learn and discover and grow and develop through play. And it's ludicrous to imagine telling a kitten or a puppy or a baby goat not to play, to stay still. It should be just as ludicrous to tell a child that. And here I go again. I'm going to cry again.
No, but you're touching the heart of it, sister. This is the heart.
I don't understand this supposed to be our future. We talk about the children and I often ask people, it just seems to me that the adults making these decisions, and I mean, when it comes to parents, they only want the best for their children. They're just getting the wrong information. There's so much misinformation coming at them. When I think about the policymakers who are deciding there should be no recess, there should be no talking during lunch, these horrible policies.
It's rampant.
It seems to me that they not only don't understand children, they clearly don't like them.
Right.
How could they like them, let alone love them, and make these kinds of decisions? So a revolution would involve people understanding and respecting children for where they are right at the moment, and not worrying about how much money we might make off of them when they're adults, which seems to be what drives a lot of the decisions.
Right. They're so worried about the future they're living into in 25 years. They're erasing what they're doing now.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, as I say, there are more of us than them, right? Aren't there? I mean,
Totally.
there are more of us than
Totally.
them.
And and part of this whole summit is to begin to collectively gather. We're having these discussions with thought leaders like you and looking at what we're better together.
Yes.
Like maybe we don't have the exact answers of how to move forward and change the culture of parenting so that they understand the power of child's play, but together we can find a way.
Yes. Yes. And as I said, there's a range of ways in which to make a difference, starting with the very simplest, which is to tell our stories. I'm not just a daycare worker. First of all, I'm not a daycare worker. No one takes care of days. I'm a childcare professional or an early childhood teacher.
Yes.
This is an early learning center. Our language really matters. We have to respect what we do if we want anybody else to respect it. And then it goes all the way up, of course, to storming Capitol Hill. I mean, we have to use our vote. We can't just blindly vote. We have to know what their position is on early childhood education. And if we don't like their position, there are ways to reach them. Now through social media, it's easier than ever. So
It's huge.
Yeah.
It's huge.
Even anonymously, we can express our opinions.
We can.
Someone said to me once, teachers have been told for so long to shut up and just do their jobs, and that's what they've done. They've complied, and we can't anymore. And I think the early childhood teachers might be even more guilty of that because, you know, we're mushy people. We're
We are.
soft-hearted people. We're not policy wonks and warriors. And we can do it in our own way.
We can.
Yeah.
We can. I love that. Well, this has been so wonderful. And I want to make sure we're going to come back and grab all of the, blog posts you mentioned
Okay.
and have them so people can follow up and have those resources. And I have goosebumps about the pieces that you did that they can buy for educating parents, because that's really needed. So thank you so much for providing that opportunity for us to buy that from you and save us hours of work and trying to say it the right way and having it come with authority. It's perfect.
Oh,
Perfect.
thank you. Thank you, Sally. I've loved talking with you. I think we
this
could
is-
do it all day.
I know we could. I have found a soul sister. I always knew you've been such a hero for me. I have loved your work. I love how you say it straight, and I love your Rae rants. Keep them going.
I'll keep them going. I will. I'm never short on opinions.
Well, we need that. You're a thought leader, and you speak what we're feeling, and that's going to make me cry. And I just appreciate that you do articulate what we feel, and that you even acknowledge, because I was a kindergarten teacher inside of Common Core, and that you're saying even in that, the transitions, the movement, the divergent thinking, like to give us permission, no matter our circumstance, we can be a stand for respecting children's needs.
Oh, that's beautifully said.
That's what you do. That's who you are. So thank you.
Thank you, Sally. And thank you for all that you do for the children.
Thank you.